Hey,
Sup,
Garrett.
sup, Michelle? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Can you hear me?
I said sup.
I said hi.
That's it? That's all you got?
Sorry, my
Like
throat.
hi is one thing. Sup is a question. Sup question mark.
It's struggling. It's annual allergy time.
Ah, well,
Are we ready? Are we ready?
I'm ready. I was
Where's Gary?
sure he's on the way. Or we can just interview Ivan for an hour.
Yeah, we can interview Ivan. Ivan figured out how to turn himself into gifts.
There you go. There's DJ Bonnie Stoneman. That's my
Haircut, Bonnie. You're
We can't hear
muted,
you.
but
You're muted.
I appreciate that it's Haircut Bonnie Day.
I cut it yesterday by myself.
I like it.
Thank you. I got out of the shower and I was like, man, it's time to cut this stuff. So I just cut it.
Just
Yeah. Well, I do the trick, like if you flip your hair over and cut it, like you line it all up and then you put it back, it gives it layers.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I'm too scared to try it myself, but I've heard of it.
there's layers to this ish.
Layers.
There's Gary.
Tiramisu. Yeah, there's Gary right there. You want to let him in?
Somebody did. We got our boy Ivan.
The meme lord himself. Gary. Oh, that's a great view.
We appreciate it.
I was just giving you a hard time, Gary. Don't.
How about now?
Oh, love it.
Much better.
Oh,
I know I'm kind of missing the keyboard.
Oh, y'all want to see the keyboard?
that's not a Texas A&M diploma I see behind you, is it?
It is. Gig 'em.
Oh man,
I have to send you a new shirt.
Right?
yeah.
It's a
So
whole wardrobe.
I need something to to start my fireplace this winter.
I know. You going to the game this weekend?
I am, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I found an Alabama sweatshirt at a thrift shop this weekend, and I almost bought it so I could burn it before the game. That's sacrifice.
Awesome.
Oh, letting them in, letting the people
It's
in.
12 o'clock.
Yeah, you're just like no warning whatsoever. You're just like, and the people are coming.
Here they come.
Thanks, Michelle.
I know better than to interrupt a Longhorn conversation.
Oh,
Right.
come on, it could go all day. Oh, well, cool. Mark
Welcome.
just walked away. I don't know, maybe he got a donut or something like that, but he'll be back in just a sec, and I'll
Donut time.
do a nice little intro here for well, as nice as I can give an Aggie. Y'all know, if you've seen the episode with Thomas, Thomas McMillan, Gary.
I don't.
He did grad school at A&M, so he's a partner.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, you'll I'll have to connect the two of y'all.
Yeah, we'll do the secret Aggie handshake.
Yeah, I know y'all the Colts, like it's okay. Oh, we're live streaming everything. We're just going out to the world right now. Well, welcome everyone. While we're waiting for our fearless leader and President Mark de Grasse to step back into frame. There he is. Here he comes. We're waiting with bated breath. We're waiting with bated breath for you, Mark.
Oh, sorry. I spoke into this, but now I realized that wasn't I was muted. So I'm sorry.
Well, cool. I wanted to intro Gary real quick. He's a local Texas agency owner. The reason why you came to my attention, Gary, is because you post in the group, you got a couple 90-day growth accelerators under your belt. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that success. It sounds like you did it from a live event, got some leads from there. It's always a tactic that we mention that our certified partners use in that awareness phase of the CVJ. But just kind of wanted to hear about your success and what you're doing and how those accelerators are going, and just kind of gain as much insight as we can from you. But yeah, I'll let y'all know Mark, president of DM. He runs these things every Friday. So I'll kick it over to y'all and let you take it from here.
All
Sounds
right. Welcome, Gary. Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize you're right down the street.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
Originally from Texas, or are you like me?
Texas. Yeehaw. Yeah, I'm out of Houston, Texas.
Nice.
But I went to Texas A&M, so Garrett and I were
Okay.
talking about his shirt there, but it's okay.
Well, we were
I
talking
didn't
about that
know
piece
that
of
Gary
paper on
liked
your
you,
wall. You had no, yeah, you had no idea. He's kidding.
Well, welcome to the show. That's
Hey.
awesome. So you've actually done the several of the 90 accelerators with different companies or your own?
Yeah, several different companies. I'm really excited about the program, the 90 Accelerator program. So previously I was studying a lot of tactical things, Facebook, YouTube, Google, all these things, and getting familiar with those, and trying to implement those, but I just didn't feel right calling up companies and talking with companies saying, hey, you need to run Facebook ads, or hey, you need to do Google. I really like the overarching concept of developing that strategy first and then figuring out, where do they really need to spend money to get the best return on their investment. And so far it's been really good. Very excited about it. Been in the program a few months now. I have 4 accelerator clients right now. I would have a lot more if I would have done something different. So, you learn from your mistakes. So kind of made a mistake along the way. One of those was a speaking engagement. So I'm really niched down. My background's in HVAC, come from 3 generations in the HVAC industry. My grandfather had an air conditioning company. My dad was a technician. And then I worked in the HVAC space for about 20 years, Fortune 100 companies, working my way up the corporate ladder. And then I stumbled upon this marketing thing and transitioned from sales to marketing. And it's just been super exciting. But the mistake I made was I did a group presentation. It was like a lunch and learn, and I did the double your sell session as the training. And at the end of it, I had several people come up to me and they're like, hey, I want to do this. Very excited. How much it costs, blah, blah, blah. I didn't pitch the price too much just because some of these professional organizations, they don't want you pitch in and all that. But I did, give a little teaser at the end. They came up to me and started talking. But what happened was I should have scheduled a meeting right then and there when they were excited about it to review the proposal. Because what happened was we talked about, how about we do the 90 accelerator, we kick it off on this day. And then they're so busy with their day-to-day operation, they kind of went dark on me for a while there. But if I would have locked in that time for the proposal, reviewed the proposal, I think I should have had one more step in there. But got some other 90-day clients, some different ways, but so I have 4 right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. Are they all within HVAC?
Not all of them, most of them. So the first one I got through, and I'm looking at commercial, industrial HVAC and residential HVAC.
Okay.
The first one was a client I just got through cold calling, right? So just I have a list within my niche and just going down the list, and I stumbled upon a company that really needs marketing services. And we scheduled a W sell session. We did it via Zoom, and they were on board. And so that was the first one. The rest have been kind of interesting. So I really like how the W sell session up front kind of builds that reciprocity, and it's a lot about giving up front. And so I've kind of embraced that. And so for what it's worth, I actually one person that actually attended the speaking engagement who didn't come up to me afterwards just reached out to me and said, hey, I wanted to just pick your brain and have a conversation. And I didn't really think he sounded like much of a client just based on the initial conversation we had. But I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go meet the guy for coffee and just hear what he has to say and just try to help. Right. So I printed off that one pager, that 90-day accelerator one pager, and took that with me. And as we were talking, it sounded like it could fit. So I shared that one pager with him. And then right off the bat, he's like, we need to do this. So, so that was, yeah. So
I love
that
that.
was the second one.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's so cool with that, because the printouts, like I think, everybody thinks everything's so digital nowadays, but even now when I just show people the things that we do at Digital Marketer, I'm like, oh yeah, you need a customer avatar or something like that. It means absolutely nothing until you put it on that paper. And then people are like, oh, now it's real. And so it sounds like that's what happened with that guy. Was he skeptical at first and you had it, and then when you showed that and he totally switched, or was he just one of those sleeper opportunities?
No, he really wasn't skeptical at all. I think he saw that I truly wanted to help. And I had no expectations of the meeting. It was like, hey, I'm here to help. Let's just have coffee. I'll answer some questions. And so I'm also have gone through the scalable program that Roland Frazier and Ryan Dice put on. So kind of my method or whatever is, if they want to grow or they want to scale, we'll provide marketing. And if they don't want to grow or they don't want to scale, what are they doing? Do you want to sell your company? And so I'm kind of pitching both sides there, to where if you want to grow, I'll help you grow. And if you don't want to grow, maybe I'll look at acquiring your company. And so we had a little bit of that conversation too around acquisitions, but he's definitely in a growth mode. So yeah, after we had a conversation, I gave him some ideas, some thoughts, my perspective, and I feel like the live event definitely kind of pre-framed the conversation as maybe an expert and that sort of thing. So yeah, that was the second one. The third one, so kind of a friend of the family owns a custom home remodeling business. And he's been in this particular industry for like 20 years, right? Probably longer. And he has done no marketing. Everything's been word of mouth. And he really doesn't have a marketing budget at all. And so what we did, we negotiated a rev share where I would do the 9-day accelerator for him. And then any clients that he comes in through my effort, we do a rev share there. So that was another one. And the other one, so a little bit about my background. So, I was working for these Fortune 100 companies. I was finishing up my MBA and this was like years ago, I decided I wanted to start my own business. And so I came up with this concept, my own idea basically. And it was an outsourced digital sales team. And then so I was all over social media at the time, wrote a book and all this. And then a Fortune 100 company kind of in that same space reached out to me and said, hey, I want you to come do this for our company, and offered me this like great salary and all this. And so I ended up leaving the entrepreneurial world, was miserable for a couple of years just because I was in that corporate bureaucracy. And anyways, they had a lot of changes over there. And so I decided to relaunch my business and strictly focus on marketing, actually a very clear model at this point versus, what I did years ago of making up something. Basically what I made up before was, it's outsourced digital sales team, but we were also doing market research for companies, in a nutshell. But one of those clients that I had previously, who I hadn't talked to in a couple of years, right? And I had no intention whatsoever of him being a client. And it turns out this particular company is in the medical manufacturing space, like medical consumables. And they're based out of Korea. So it really cool guys. There's a little bit of a language barrier there, but just great people. And so I said, hey, let's just get together for lunch and just, talk about what you're doing. I can share what I'm doing. No expectations whatsoever. And so at lunch, when we were at lunch, we started talking a little bit, and he's like, hey, I was wondering if you could help train this guy on sales, because my background sales and marketing. And I didn't really want to talk business at lunch. I just wanted to, get to know, catch up a little bit, right? And so I scheduled a time. I was like, why don't we schedule a time next week, and I'll come down and I'll sit down with you, figure out, we'll put together a proposal, right? And so when we're sitting there, we're talking about, what are they trying to accomplish? What are their goals? What are they really trying to do? And then one of the general manager of the office spoke up and he says, look, all I really want is a strategy. That's what I want right now. By the end of the year, I want to have a strategy and to help increase sales. And I said, strategy. Okay. You want to do a strategy to increase sales? I'm like, well, I have an idea. And we have this 90-day accelerator program. So I started talking to them about that. And then they signed a proposal for that one as well. Wow. And then I have another W sales session coming up next week, and just really, really cool stuff happened. Anyway, I feel like I'm ramming a little bit. So
no. Well, no, it's great getting your backstory, because you mentioned that one, you have a book, which is huge. And you do speaking engagements, which actually led to a lot of these things. And you came up with a niche that sounds like it really fits. So let's just get into that. So let's talk about your book. Did you write the book while you were still working in corporate, and then kind of, formulated the concepts prior to launching your company, or how'd that work?
Yeah, so I wrote it actually when I was so when I had my own business and I went back to the corporate world, I decided to write it actually during all that COVID stuff going on.
That makes sense.
Kind of the beginning of that, because I had more time. Wasn't had to come. Well, a lot of people weren't out and about, obviously. So yeah. I've kind of transitioned. So originally it was B2B sales, right? And when I was finishing up my MBA, we were putting together our project basically that we were for one of the classes we were working on. And we noticed a trend happening in digital selling. And it's kind of that hybrid between sales and marketing, as you know, where it's, you're utilizing Zoom, you're utilizing a lot of these digital platforms to increase sales. And I really wasn't that familiar with all of the marketing stuff that's out there. Did stumble upon Russell Brunson and his book, and read his book and ClickFunnels and all that, and really got wrapped up in that, and just exciting. And we actually launched a conference right at the end of my MBA. It was like the first digital selling conference in Texas that we know of, anyways.
Wow.
And we had. Yeah. So it was fun. It was at the San Luis in Galveston. But yeah, we finished up the book. The book was on B2B digital selling, B2B digital selling secrets.
That's awesome. So was it just kind of your own thoughts about the process, or you've been in the industry for so many years, and you got pulled everything into this book and system?
Yeah. It was my experience plus some of the things that I've been learning and applying and that sort of thing. And one thing that I learned through Expert Secrets, Russell Brunson's book, was that you don't have to know everything. You just have to be one chapter ahead of, kind of where you were. If we think back, where were we a year ago? Was there a book that could get us to where we are now? That doesn't take a year to do.
That's fantastic. Well, and I'm a huge advocate of books, just because I think it really encapsulates what you've learned so far, and it's a single project. So once you have this one project done, you have something you can show people, adds crazy amounts of credibility to anybody you talk to, and now you're an authority on whatever subject, even if people never read the books, because most people won't, but they'll be like, this guy wrote a book about this process, and that's who I hired. And then everybody's like, oh wow, a smart person to hire somebody who's that qualified. Just so everybody knows, all of you should have books. And we have Caleb Peavy. He'll help you build it. And we also did a course with Chandler Bolt, who is self-published. I think that's the name. Anyways, everybody needs a book. So I love that step of the process. And then let's talk about your niche real quick. So HVAC, tons of experience in it. And I think a lot of the difficulties that a lot of agencies have is breaking down your market, because everybody wants to be like, well, I could help everybody, and nobody cares when you say that. Just to make that clear for everybody. That doesn't mean anything to anyone. Now, when you say HVAC, you have experience, now people who are in HVAC would be like, I'm definitely going to hire this guy because he has all the experience. He's done this before. He knows what I'm going through. Plus, anybody who's within that same general space, which would be your construction, home builders, commercial site builders. It probably extends to interior designers. And I worked with a company called CX2 that did like concrete laying, and that I think that fits in that same kind of category, those self-built companies. Anyway, let's just talk about that. So did you intentionally say like, I'm going to help these people, or did it just kind of fit with what you were doing?
Yeah. I intentionally focused there. I think Josh Nelson, he's part of, he's a certified partner. So I went through his on-ramp program a couple years ago, and he was very focused on niching down, right? And it really makes sense through this, what I've experienced, because there's a couple of different things, and I read a lot. I'm sure everybody on here reads a lot, does a lot of courses, that sort of thing. I've been called a course junkie just because I take so many of these courses, but yeah, to answer your question, I want it to be easy, but also, like everyone, easy but profitable, right? Or easier and profitable. And sticking with one niche, I can reuse a lot of the same, generally speaking, a lot of the same content, and not have to go out and do a bunch of market research on like, semiconductors or whatever the niche may be. So that was one piece of it, was just keeping it simple. The other, at Scalable the conference that Roland Ryan, the other conference that Roland and Ryan put on, Scalable, Alex Hermosi spoke at the conference last year, and I read his book, $100 Million Offers, and it makes sense there too, because if you just say, hey, I'm a marketer, right? Like, what does that mean? I mean, how much can you really charge for that? But if you say, I'm a marketer for commercial and industrial HVAC contractors, right? So if you just say I'm a marketer, you may be able to charge, I don't know, for simplicity, $50, right? But if you say I'm a marketer for commercial industrial HVAC contractors, you might be able to charge $1,000 because it's so specialized. So you can charge more, plus it's simplified, and just having that story to tell. Like I was trying to figure out what would differentiate me between all the other marketers that are out there. And having that story of like that experience, you kind of speak their language and that sort of thing.
Oh, it's huge. Well, and I think it's just from like my sales process when I had an agency was you'd meet with them, you'd give the proposal, they'd be like, great. And then they'd spend 2 weeks usually researching, trying to find somebody better and cheaper than you. And there you go. But with this niche, if you say like, I'm the best at HVAC marketing, they could go search all they want. They're not going to find anybody for the most part, or they'll find a landing page or two of somebody who just SEO'd that specific topic, but they're not going to find anybody. And when you say marketer in general, even Austin, like let's say you concentrate on Austin, I'm an Austin marketer. It's like, okay, great. So I want to sell everywhere. So now you just eliminate that person too. So I love that part. Did the book actually lead to the event that you were at too, or was that kind of a separate deal?
So the event was kind of I just joined a professional organization in my niche. And I know like Dan Kennedy and Russell Brunson, that they have said, the person that could spend the most to acquire a customer wins. And I know some of these like large companies, they're not having somebody go sit in a meeting at an association event and get to know people and build that relationship. At least not yet anyways. So yeah, that's how I got plugged in there. So I had to pay like $200 or whatever to be a part of the association. But I get access every month. I get to go sit down with these people. They got golf tournaments up. They got a conference coming up that I have a booth at. And so that kind of that transition from sales into marketing, at the end of the day, it's just people, whether they're on a computer or you're sitting down with them. It's just a matter of maximizing your time, it seems like.
Oh yeah. Well, and the fact that you were able to target them because you joined the association for, wherever it was. Now you're surrounded by the people who would look for the service in the first place. And for me, like I focused on healthcare websites. And so I attended like a dental conference, which sounds ridiculous, except I had a brand that was just about healthcare websites. So it made a ton of sense. And that was my market. And I was the specialist that only focused on them for that conference, at least. And it totally works. So that makes so much sense. What did you talk about when you had your speech?
The double your sales session.
There you go. You didn't even have to make it up.
Yeah. It was really cool. It was a little different because we had a group there that they were all, but the way I pitched it was like, this is an interactive workshop where it's going to be different for everybody in the room. They're going to be able to customize it to their business right then and there. And so I wouldn't, because they're competitors, like in the association, like these are all competing contractors. I would just have, get a show of hands in some cases, and just try to figure out a way to communicate the message in a way that they're not giving up too much information, but it's enough for them to have some aha moments and say, okay, this is where I need to focus on.
That's awesome. And since you have a niche, like eventually, or you probably have some already, but you have those case studies that apply to the exact audience you're talking to, which is just a huge stat to list on your website, talk about with your brand, and so on and so forth. That's super cool. So you do a ton of in-person networking. Do you do any cold outreach, or is it just primarily networking right now?
Yeah. So I do cold calls. They're brutal.
Oh, you do? I was going to say, oh, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, you could get beat up pretty bad doing cold calls, at least I do. And I feel like I'm pretty good at it, and it still can be painful. So I try to, so I did the double your sales session and the 90 on my business, right? So I have my scorecard, and cold calls are part of my scorecard. And so just trying to grind that out each week and do enough to where I feel like I'm making some traction, but at the same time, I feel like if I do too many, it gets kind of monotonous. And then when you pick up the phone, you don't have the right tone, you don't have the right enthusiasm. And so it's finding that balance. But yeah, I'm doing the cold outreach there. I have email campaigns that are running. I have LinkedIn campaigns that are running. But the in-person stuff, and probably because HVAC is so saturated with so many, I mean, they get calls from people all the time. I feel like the in-person stuff has been pretty valuable because I can really cut through the noise and sit down. And the other cool thing I like about 90 Accelerator is it's a $10,000 ticket item, right? So it's worth your time. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this if I was trying to run Facebook ads and make $100 a month.
Well, and I think that's how you get the higher, dollar contracts in the first place is, nobody's going to hire you for $20,000 if they saw a neat website or a perfect sales video, or, there's just no situation where somebody would spend that kind of money without talking to you in person. And some of it's, regional, I think, because I think in Texas, when I moved to Texas, I realized like, oh, everybody wants to know the owner. If you're not the owner of the business, then they're not going to talk to you. And so it has to be in person because there's this kind of handshake kind of culture here. Whereas in, I think, other places, you probably have maybe a little bit less of that, or it holds less importance. Like in California, it was your company name was bigger and your social media presence was more important than it is here in Texas, where it's like, now you could meet me in person. You won't even check my stuff online, but you might do business with me because we talked. So,
yeah.
And I think probably just depends on your market and your location. I don't know. Does anybody else have that experience in terms of, the owners of the businesses or the people that hire you want to talk to the owner? Or is it more like, I hate to say shallow. Anybody from California here? I don't know if there's any Californians here, but I always know a Californian because they act a specific way, especially in business. And it's less friendly than other places. All right, Laura. You're probably
I'm a Californian.
Cool.
I'm
California.
41 years, Southern California. I just moved to Florida though.
Oh,
So,
really? Where were you at?
I was actually in Riverside County, but I grew up in Thousand Oaks. So I grew up in Ventura County.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ventura is cool. I was Orange County. So I grew up
Oh,
in
okay.
La
Yeah,
Habra.
and you're right. We do business differently in California.
Oh, it's crazy. I think it's just because there's so many people and everybody's trying to sell something. And so it's like, I think people go back to the name and the credibility and the research that they put into you. And they're just
Absolutely.
less friendly.
I don't know if it's less friendly. It's just like self-involved. I think I'm going to use that word instead. You know what I mean?
Well, I always tell people it's because everybody's hustling. Like everything is so expensive and everybody, has so many things to do and it takes forever to get anywhere. You end up you have to be head down and just doing work all the time, and there's no
Yeah.
room for.
Well,
for
and the other thing
smiling.
is you can live next door to your neighbor in California and never even know who they are because they literally pull into their garage, shut their garage door, and they never come out. So you like every neighborhood there right now, at least, is like it's like a ghost town.
Oh yeah,
You know?
it's crazy, and it's that we realize that too because we moved a few different. Actually, we moved across the street from my parents, and I never saw them. I was like,
That's the whole point, right?
yeah, it's like okay, that's it. So, anyways, but yeah, the regional areas I think makes it a big difference, but especially in Texas and places like Texas where you have more of a community culture. I think the in-person events are 100% necessary. You're never going to close those big deals without them.
Well, the funny thing is, my first client is out of California, right? So that was just through cold calling, and it's kind of cool working in the different time zones because you can really get more time in the day. So you know, it's 5 o'clock in Texas, but it's only 3 o'clock in California. So keep cranking out those calls.
That's good. So for your cold call list, did you just make a list of all the HVAC companies in America, or how'd that work?
Yeah. I went through a list broker, and got a list that way. And then I used a company on Fiverr to kind of clean the list and go through it and make sure, I mean, they did an okay job cleaning it up. But the goal is kind of to find that dream 100. And so I was constantly pulling people off, putting people on, you know, just as I make, you know, if I get somebody that says, don't ever call me again, I never want to work with you. You know, all right, I'll take you off the list.
Yeah, it's not. Well, I always think it's funny when people get so offended, like, I can't believe you called me. Like, is it cell phones? Like, are you calling actual people, or is it all businesses?
No, just calling the businesses. And there's a lot. I've gone through Jordan Belford's. I've gone through a bunch of different training, like the sales. I went through Jordan Belford's sales program, which is pretty focused on calling people. And so he's got some different tactics there. One thing some people, they're not very friendly to the gatekeepers or the people, you know, the receptionist answering the phone. And I have found like being friendly to them and like bringing the right energy level and like not just sounding like a robocall or whatever you want to call, sound like a human being. Because at the end of the day, we're all just people helping each other. So as long as I'm not exhausted at the end of the day, and, you know, I feel like that gives me the best odds when, you know, when you're connecting with people, or if I haven't done 100 calls and it's like the 100th one and I'm like, hi, this is Gary. You know, you get to that point.
Oh, that's super cool. So how do you keep 100 calls? You do 100 calls in a day?
I not very often. Right now on my scorecard, I want to do 50 a week. That's the plan. That's like a good balance to where I'm not like just waking up just dreading making cold calls. Thankfully right now though, I haven't had to make a lot of cold calls. Like I feel like some momentum's picked up through some of the speaking engagements, through some of the calls. There was another thing that seemed to work pretty well that I did. So, you know, I can't go to every conference that are out there just because like each conference can be like $1,000, and, you know, I have 3 kids and I got to pay for diapers too. So, but one thing I've done that's really seemed to be helpful so far is going to like a hotel where a conference is being held, and like getting a room at the hotel or close by, and like going to
if you have any portable like key lock.
There you go.
So they have these coffee shops at a lot of times at these fancy hotels where these conferences are had. So one thing I did for a current W Yourself session I have lined up right now is go to the coffee shop where the conference is being held. And I just gave my credit card and I said, everybody that comes through this morning, I want to buy them all coffee. Wow. And so I bought like $300 worth of coffee, but everybody that came over, they were like, it's early in the morning on a Saturday or whatever. They're, you know, kind of grumpy, even though they're at a hotel. But when they get up there and they're like, oh, he got your coffee over there. And they'll come over like, I'm so thankful. And I'm like, hey, no problem. Are you here for the conference? And then we started. And if they're not, hey, it's, you know, it's giving, right? It's just, you just made somebody's day by buying a $2 cup of coffee. So that was kind of cool. So like the double your sell session I have lined up right now. So I had bought that guy coffee. Then we jumped on a site and I did jumped on a Zoom call and I did value in advance. I did basically an audit of their digital presence, just giving them ideas there. So that's kind of been my value in advance. And then he's like, well, let me put my boss on a call. So I had a call with his boss, kind of explaining, kind of pitching the double your sell session. And they're like, okay, let's do it on this day. And then so we got that lined up. But it's the way it's set up right now is like we kind of have a relationship. Like they kind of know each other now. You know, bought him coffee, you've done these other things. So I'm kind of
Oh, that's
excited about
super
that.
cool. I love that tip. Well, and it seems, nobody does that stuff. Like I've never gone to a conference center and went to get coffee and they're like, oh, this guy paid for you. Like that's super memorable. And it's just out there hustling. I think the pounding the pavement doesn't get the credit it should get, because really just the fact that you're out there, and even if you did cold calls for 6 months and never got one sale, but it was just that process of trying, and now you've identified all these potential clients and you've done all this work through the industry. I think that's that leads to stuff as well. Because for me, I'm a content. So when I had my agency, I'd get leads from old articles that I wrote, and those would usually lead to something, but they read the article and I already taught them something, and now it's an easier call. I never liked the clients I got from those things, but I ended up, but I did all the networking. So I ended up knowing the people before I actually did business with them. And that helped my performance with the project as well. So I think that's good.
Yeah. And it's more fun too. Like one thing, and I'm not an expert on all, I'm just kind of sharing like the little 2 cents that, that I'm kind of like learning along the way. Like we all are, like we're all getting little insights as we work through this. But it's more fun when you, at least for me, because I get bored easy, like doing different things, like make some calls, send a couple of send some direct mail, send emails, go to a couple things. And I don't know, just that diversity in kind of activities kind of makes it more fun for me. And I don't have a big team like doing all that. But thankfully through Digital Marketer and some of the other groups that I'm a part of, from a tactical standpoint, I can find somebody to run Facebook ads. I can find somebody to do Google ads, like, all that stuff.
Well, I think you kind of identified those tasks that can't be outsourced. And so the things that people won't take the steps to do. Like, is it easier to run a Facebook ad campaign and spend a bunch of time writing copy and doing creatives and all that kind of stuff, which is fun for marketers, right? That's what we do. Versus I'm going to show up and speak at an event and try to network with strangers. That sounds way less fun for people who, I chose this profession because I was like, oh, I'll never have to talk to people. And I was so wrong. Just epically wrong.
No, you're absolutely right. And for me, it's not really a natural thing for me. One thing that if you're in that situation where you just hate speaking in front of people, and one thing that has really helped me is Toastmasters. I don't know if anybody is part of Toastmasters, but they have most areas have a Toastmaster chapter. So, and those, if you don't know what that is, Toastmasters is just improving public speaking. So it's kind of a safe space where you can go and practice public speaking and get feedback from people, and you get used to speaking in front of a group. And so that's helped me. But I really think if it was just doing what I naturally want to do, I'd rather sit in front of the computer and do Zoom calls and not. But I know it helps to get out. I know it's healthy and productive to get out with other people and be face to face with people.
Yeah. Well, then it's interacting with your people. Because one of the things I gotta find the article. I wrote an article about picking your niche, and it was a very simple process of being like, hey, make a list of your clients, mark the ones that you actually enjoyed working with, and then mark the ones that you made the most money with, and then see if there's similarities in the industry that they're in, because there probably will be. And for me, I went through the process, found healthcare. I'm like, I like working with doctors. They don't care what I do. They just give me money and I do the work, and that makes me happy. Versus way more involved, which is usually like startups or, there's some topic. Usually it's there's elements of healthcare where it's like, you know, you have the feely people, they're usually therapists and people like that, and they have very strong opinions on everything that you do. So I was like, I don't, that's less helpful for me. But for you, you would go out, talk there, you know the people, you know the industry, and it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like having that story to tell of like your background. I mean, you know, you don't even have to work in the space. It could be just something that somehow you were connected to, like makes it. There was one group I was a part of. There was a guy who was trying to pick his niche, and he had been a police officer for a period of time. He had done all this like law enforcement type stuff, but then he's like, I think my niche is going to be garage door contractors, and I'm like, he didn't really like garage door. Yeah, it was just a market that he felt, he could make money in. But I mean, at least for me, I feel like I would get burnt out doing that. And so we kind of have a conversation around it. And I think he was going to pivot to like security agencies, like security companies. There's a lot of those out. And he's got a story to tell. It's like, hey, I was a police officer, blah, blah, blah. And then you can connect with people. I mean, it ties back to the whole people thing, like connecting with people. It's not incongruent, right? It's like, it's more seamless with the story.
Well, and for something that you're going to do long term, I think that's the fallacy that we all have in terms of like, well, if I just work this long enough, it's going to work and it's going to make me all this money and then I'll be happy. Versus no, just do the crap that you like doing right now, and you're much more likely to do it long term. And that long term effort is actually going to lead to all the benefits, not, this is the easiest thing in the world or survival mode. I think most of us default to survival. Like, well, I'm going to do this and I hate it, but I need the money, so I'm going to do the work and eventually I'll be successful. I don't know. Does anybody have an argument against niching? Because I think that's really what it comes down. I think that's why you're successful right now and you're getting those contracts. You combine the niche with the systems and then the effort. And those three things are actually what leads to a lot more business, a lot more scalable business too, because you're not going to scale. That was the fault I made with my agency was if you look at my portfolio, it has 24 industries on it. How do you niche 24 industries? How do you scale and make processes for 24 industries? It's impossible. It's not going to work, so you have to. But yeah, I'm Atiba, Rico's not going to argue for no niches. Rico's the niche master. Maybe you could unmute. Do we have to unmute everybody or no? Everybody can unmute themselves. I heard something for a second.
Yeah, it's interesting too when you're doing the 90-day accelerator. You can, if you're familiar with that niche, you can create analogies and that sort of thing, and actually can like the customer value journey. I use the analogy of an HVAC system, like when I'm talking about it, like it's, you have different components and then you have technicians that know how to work on, and some of the Facebook and Google professionals of the world. I mean, they're more, I describe these are like the technicians that you need, and but I'm not a tech.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, and I think it's just a scary proposition most of the time for most people, and that's why we end up with 16 niches, which means no niche at all. So in terms of just things that you think are going to make your agency grow to the next level, of all the things you're doing, have you kind of decided like, okay, this is where it's at, this is going to make my business bigger?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a goal for how many 90-day accelerator, and I think Ryan in that initial webinar workshop, that he put on described it very well. Like you get a certain amount of 90-day accelerators, you get a certain amount of pull through work from those accelerators. I don't personally want to do the pull through work, so I'm establishing relationships with the people that love doing that and trying to negotiate a rev share for that. So basically, maybe they act as a white label, maybe they don't, but basically after the 90 accelerator, if somebody wants Facebook ads or needs, I'm all about what does the client really need to get where they are now to where, because the feedback that I've gotten from the clients is they feel like sometimes marketers are taking advantage of them and trying to, trying to sell something they don't need. So anyways, at the end of the 90-day accelerator, if we determine they need this, this, and this, then partnering with people that do that, and then having some sort of rev share arrangement. So maybe I don't have to think about that. I just can focus on because I really enjoy the 90-day accelerators. I enjoy getting out and doing these things. Plus, so for my background, it connects the marketing, connects the sales, connects the speaking. And so it kind of ties all that together.
I love, well, and identifying the needs too, because I think that, another problem that agencies have is you could do the best campaign in the world and you could do the best work in the world and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter if they don't have the sales team in place to actually convert the leads. And it doesn't matter if their operation is so poor, maybe their customer service is terrible and every person you sell ends up pissed off and ends up anti the company that you just promoted and so on and so forth. Not your fault, but I think with the 90-day accelerator, it sets things on the right path, and 90-day, anybody could commit to 90 days. And I think the classic version of marketing is get people on retainer, try to get that 5K a month signed for a year. And then as long as I made my 60K, I don't really care how the results went because they'll just turn over a marketing agency. And so I think that's what we're fighting against as certified partners and agencies, is that turnover, because people have been through 50 agencies in some cases. And so I think if you're kind of relationship marketing combined with the networking, combined with the systems, that's what I'll actually have you promote. Any other specific tips that you think that anybody here could take to grow their agency?
Well, just on the whole, I guess the big things have been just try to give, you get, whether you want to call it the universe or God or reciprocity or whatever you want to call it, like when you give enough and it provides value, you get back one way or another. And so that's a big thing that I've noticed. And then, the niche has been helpful. And on the turnover side, and I'm not trying to plug anything here, but Ryan Dice and Roland Fraser do have this epic acquisition program. And so like my long-term goal is to not be doing marketing for other people. I want to own the companies and be doing marketing for my company, and I'll be paying myself through the company, and I won't have to worry about one day, some company waking up and saying, wait a minute, I saw, let's try billboards and not digital marketing anymore. Because you're making a decision around your business. And so anyway, that's something I'm pretty excited about, is kind of like meshing those two together, the digital marketer certified partner. And so like right now I'm looking at one acquisition right now in California. It's an HVAC company. And so I'm looking at their cash flow. They're spending $100,000 a year right now on an agency. And so maybe I'm that agency once the acquisition happens, me plus, other team members, right? Versus, maybe not, but at least you have those options.
Well, I love that you said that, because I have actually never said that either, where I'm kind of like, if you're an agency owner, you could essentially test a bunch of marketing methods and get paid for it. And then when you go to start your business or whatever you want to do after, you've done all the research, you got paid for it, and somebody else paid for the process that it went through. So it's a huge opportunity. And if you ever wanted to do an HVAC company or whatever you decide to do in the future, you have all the marketing systems in place and you've tested it with specific markets, or maybe just use the whole process to identify the best opportunity in HVAC, where it's like, oh, well, actually new builds aren't where the money's at. It's actually in renovations of old commercial structures. So I'm just going to focus on that. And now you have everything you need to grow. So I think that's another huge benefit of being an agency owner, is identifying opportunities. And what you'll find a lot of times is it goes two ways, because I just went to War Room. So War Room was the, big networking event for Epic, and a bunch of people there. And a lot of them had that same story. Like, I had an agency, I worked with this one company, we did a profit share, or we did a rev share. And then I realized, like, man, you can make more money doing this. And then they just go into that industry. Not that I want any of you to stop being marketers, but it is a huge benefit of being a marketer is figuring this stuff out and get paid to do it. It's actually, it's a great job.
Absolutely.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Gary? No questions? All right. Well, we're done a little bit early today. This is great, Gary. I'm very excited to see, talk to you in a few months and see how everything's going. But we always need content. So if you want to do a specific how to market in HVAC, we'll publish that and send it out to 1 million people, because that's how many people we have on our list. So just so you all know, if you have content, you need some authority and some backlinks. When you give us content, that's what happens to it.
Yeah, and this has been super exciting to be able to, talk to everyone and visit with everyone. And I have been really leveraging digital marketers brand through these 90-day accelerators. And so when they ask me, even though it's me, like, hey, what kind of team do you have supporting you? I'm like, I have an amazing team supporting me. We're certified partners with Digital Marketer. We have some of the top digital marketers in the world that are on our team. And so I feel like that carries a lot of weight. And I love Ryan Dice's plug in there. It's not bragging if it's true, right?
Oh yeah. No, that's that's awesome. That's the first time I've ever heard people describe it that way, but everybody should be saying that because that's what you have access to, and the whole certified partner program. Because when I came into digital marketer, I asked, I'm like, how'd you guys come up with this stuff? They're like, oh, well, we brought in, we talked to 120,000 marketers, and then we talked to the best ones, and then we pulled their practices and formed certified partner. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, how could you not have the best system possible? You've been doing it on top of everything else. So thank you for saying that. That's very kind. And that's what we strive for, is to be your guys's team. And we'll be doing even more stuff in that regard very soon. Just so everybody knows, we are doing the sponsor program. Is still something that we're pushing. We're still refining it, but essentially what we're doing right now is, if you want to do a digital marketer sponsored event, then we'll support your efforts. And we're actually coming up with a framework, working with Scott Cunningham, who does a lot of work with Shopify, and he does a ton of these events. And we're essentially trying to make a event in a box, where we say, like, here's the presentation, here's the materials we're going to send you, here's how we recommend you promote it, and then we'll actually promote it for you as well. But essentially it's going to be, go out there, teach people how to do marketing, and mention digital marketer when you do it.
Do you mind if I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Like, maybe for some people that are just brand new to digital marketing, and and starting your own agency might be a little daunting. Do you have any advice for someone that might just want to work with a digital marketer, even as an intern or a low paid employee? Any advice to just get on the ground floor and just kind of do it that? Or do you guys advise just your best is just to do your own agency and kind of do a niche?
Oh, no. If you're looking for help, we actually are compiling a list of available positions for CPs. We haven't told everybody about it. So if you're a CP and haven't heard of it, it's actually something we just started with Aaron Parkinson, who was our coach for a recent paid media buyer boot camp. He said, hey, could I tell people about positions I have? And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. So just so everybody knows, we'll start promoting it within the Facebook group. But if you do have positions available, we're going to start sending out a monthly email to the big list that's like, here's jobs that people are looking for. And essentially it's just going to be a list of all the positions that certified partners might need. But coming on this call is actually a huge step. So everybody, if you need help, Nathan Clark is available.
Thank you.
I'll put your LinkedIn profile on here just so people could get in touch with you if you want to post in the messenger.
Appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, it's been great. Thank you so much, Gary, for coming on. I think you're kicking butt, and I think you got a great direction. The complete mindset you need to succeed in marketing, which is set up the systems, pick a niche, and do the work. And I think you're going to be huge. And also, you're in Austin, so whenever you have a chance, come by the studio. We'll do some content.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Mark, and thank you all to everyone else that were on the call here. I really appreciate y'all's time.
Awesome. Well, tune in next week, guys. We have, who do we have next week? Bonnie, Michelle, Gary. I don't know.
We have Natalia. Yeah, she's one of our certified partners, and I will have a little more info for her next week. But she is she markets down in Latin America. It is the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month, so we brought on somebody specifically to help celebrate that. But one of our certified partners doing great things down in that market, and excited to hear about that ever expanding Latin American market. But yeah, we'll be here same time, same place next Friday.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, guys. We'll post those updates and information about the sponsored events and the open positions on the Facebook group. So look for that there, and we'll see you next week. Be sure to tune in.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you all.